Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Neil Simon, Vice President of Government Relations for the Investment Advisor Association.
Good morning, good morning. Thank you all for being here. Today is going to be an interesting day. We have great weather, and it's going to be a day of fascinating meetings on Capitol Hill. So this is going to be a largely informal briefing. I hope most of you listened in either on the live briefing webinar we did a week ago or in the recording of it, because we're going to be going over some of that same information, but I'm probably not going to go over the talking points in the same depth. Hopefully you all now have the folders with your names on it that were out at the registration desk. If you didn't grab it, you can either duck out quickly now or get them on your way out of the hall. But I'm going to go over some of the logistics of the day, and yes, I will be using my cheat notes. Okay, the goal of the day is to make friends, to make relationships, to establish local connections, to help persuade folks to our shared position. The most important thing, Gary Gensler yesterday touched upon the fact that he didn't think most investors recognize the difference between broker-dealers, investment advisors, other type of advisors, bankers. Well, that's true on Capitol Hill too. Yes, there are lawmakers like Jim Himes, who you all met yesterday, who are pretty sophisticated about financial services, who certainly recognize the distinctions, the different laws that are applicable, but many don't. So explain who you are, what you do for a living, how you're compensated, who your clients are. Again, make that local connection. That's what makes the message that we deliver resonate when there's a local, dare I say, political connection. You're the folks that employ people, that serve clients in those areas, pay taxes. They're going to pay attention to you. And you don't need to be the issues expert. Sure, if you have expertise, employ it. But you can always say, can we get back to you on that? And IA will follow up. That's what we do. I should add that many of you, not all of you, have the so-called leave-behinds for each meeting. We did make a decision because of the number of virtual meetings that we sent those materials to the folks that you're going to be meeting with. Those were sent to them yesterday morning in an email. That doesn't mean that they all read it or they all saw it, so please do use them. But the policy priorities, some of the other key documents are in there. Now, in your materials, there are a number of things. Your schedules with the little nice pictures of the lawmakers and the logistics of each meeting. Please, if you haven't looked at the app, there is a wealth of information in there, including how you're going to enter the building and perhaps move to your next meeting. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But in your materials, you have your schedules. You have a map. It's I think, on the left side in back. It's a really good map, and it has a couple things that are circled that are real important. And stapled together are, I believe, 8 talking points papers. Those are for you. Those are not designed as leave-behinds, although if it accidentally happens, it's not a tragedy. But those are really talking points to help guide you. You do not need to go over all 8 of those talking papers. Certainly, I would hope that you touch upon a couple key issues, including the retirement savings legislation, the so-called Secure Act 2.0 bill that we talked about a whole bunch yesterday. Certainly this issue regarding the AML, anti-money laundering provisions in the National Defense Authorization Act. And again, although that was in the House-passed bill, so the issue is now before the Senate, if the Senate strips it out, as we are hopeful, if we deliver our message effectively, that will increase the chances that the Senate drops that provision, it still has to be reconciled with the House. So it is an issue that you can bring up in both chambers. And when I say it needs to be reconciled with the House, either there'll be what's called a conference committee, where the House and the Senate each appoint conferees to negotiate the compromise, and then that compromise is approved by each chamber, and it's a done deal. Or the House will simply have to agree to the Senate-passed bill. So please, those two issues are really important. Bunch of other things. Let me go over, I'm going to be returning to the issues in a moment, but let me just go over some logistics first. We have a shuttle bus, or we have a couple shuttle buses. I think each can handle about 35 folks that are going to be leaving from the hotel. The schedule is in the app. I think on your folder on the front is the recommended time for you to leave. The first bus leaves at, oh, look at that. The first bus leaves at 9 o'clock, and then every half hour thereafter. We don't, even if you're anxious to get to the Hill, as I am, we can't accommodate everybody on that first 9 o'clock bus. So some of you, it might say 9:30 if you don't have a meeting till 10:30 or 11 or whatever. So please try to stay with what we have suggested. There may be a couple extra seats in that 9 o'clock bus and some of the other buses. If you're really interested in going, get up there and see if there's an opening. But I think the schedules we have suggested will work pretty well. I should also mention that the first meetings of the day, with a single exception, are at 10 o'clock. So that 9 o'clock bus will work fine for us 10 o'clockers. I'm one of them. But there's a single meeting at 9:30, and I think that crew is going to be cabbing over. Those are our folks from Connecticut who have a meeting with Connecticut Senator Murphy's office. And they may have already left, but Laura Drinan, Gail Bernstein was going to go with that crew. But everybody else should be able to use the buses. And you can use the buses to return. Now, the bus is not going to drop you off at the doorstep of the building where you have your first meeting. I wish that were possible, but it's not. Buses are only allowed to go to certain areas near the Capitol, and the spot that you're going to be dropped off is on the west front of the Capitol, between the Capitol grounds, that big, lovely lawn, and that little reflecting pool, and it's called the Peace Circle. I think there's a big statue of Ulysses S. Grant there, maybe on top of a horse. But that's where you're going to be dropped off. And it's sort of equidistant between the House and Senate side. It's about 3 blocks to the Senate side, 3 blocks to the House side. So it's a little bit of a walk, but that's the best we can do. And again, that's also where buses will be picking up. And that, again, is called the Peace Circle. Couple more matters. Lunch. Yes, we will try to make sure that you are properly nourished. There are going to be box lunches, and which I think will be either in bags or there'll be bags available that you can carry with you to the Hill. We also, because unlike past years, where we could walk freely inside the House office building and from one building to another and hang out in the halls or in the Rayburn House office building cafeteria between meetings and get work done and get a meal. That's no longer possible. I have to tell you that first the pandemic and then the January 6th related security changes have made it much more difficult to navigate Capitol Hill and go to meetings. Originally, we had scheduled this program in June. We pushed it back to the fall in the expectation and hope that it would be back to normal on the Hill. Well, it's not. It's better than it was, but you still need to be met at the entrance after you go through security. You need to be escorted out of the building. You can't wander around like we so enjoyed in past years. I'm hoping those days will come back. Please look at your app, look at the details for each meeting, which has where the meeting will be, who you're going to be meeting with, but it also has instructions about how to get to that office, who to email, who to call to get that escort to bring you to the meeting. Now, in certain cases, we recognized that the time between meetings was pretty close, and we were able to arrange that you will not be escorted, instead of being escorted out of the building, if that entire group then has a meeting together in the same place, you'll be escorted to the next meeting. Those are exceptional, but again, all the more reason to look at your app, see what the instructions are. It's not a perfect system. I'm sure if you can get to the meetings as early as you can to get through security, that will be helpful. You do have information on the app about the other attendees at the meetings that will facilitate your communicating with them. We are available also. So please, recognizing that it may not all work perfectly, I'm expecting it to work damn well nonetheless, but there could be some glitches, and you're just going to have to be a little bit flexible. IEA staff is available to help out, facilitate if there are any problems. Okay. In addition to the box lunches, we have arranged to have a nice room at the Capitol Hill Club. It is circled on your map. It is on the house side. It is catty corner off of the southeast corner of the Cannon House office building, so it's very convenient to the house side. And we have a room there. There'll be some light refreshment, coffee, tea, snacks. It's a place you can hang out, get comfortable. If you have virtual meetings, which many of you do, it's a place that you could do those virtual meetings, whether you do them with your smartphone, tablet, laptop. I think IEA will have a couple laptops there also available. We'll also have a couple staff there to help facilitate that. Feel free, it's going to be available all day, I think starting at 9 o'clock this morning. And I think it's open till 4 or 5 o'clock this evening. Feel free to hang out there if you're looking for a place to hang out. If you have time and inclination, the Hill is a fascinating place to walk around. Again, you're not going to be able to walk around the office buildings themselves, but walk up the steps and check out the Supreme Court. A lot of history is made there. The botanical gardens on the house side are a wonderful place. So feel free, enjoy yourselves. There's some wonderful parks. There's some wonderful spaces. There are lots of benches scattered about for you to call your office, call your clients, do your virtual meeting, whatever. Okay. Any changes with regard to the meetings will be delivered to you through the app. And I can tell you that just last night, we got a meeting we had been after with Chair Maxine Waters' office, the chair of the House Financial Services. That came through last night. Oy. So all of a sudden, working with IEA's just terrific staff, we were redeploying people and redeploying which staff might be available to go to that meeting. It happens. It's the Hill. Schedules change. Your schedules change, as well as some of the lawmakers and the staff we're meeting with. So we just have to go with it. And let me take a moment. Most of IEA staff will be going to meetings. They are very skilled accompanists. They are not to run the meetings. These meetings are for you, but they're there just to help facilitate. And IEA, let me see if I can identify who's out there, and the lights don't make this easy, but I see Sarah Busher, raise your hand, Janae Rickwalder, William Nelson, Laura Grossman, Brad Feldman, Monique Botkin. These are some of the folks that will be going to some of the meetings, not all the meetings, We do not have yet enough staff to accompany everybody, but we did try to provide. We don't want a lot of folks having to go to meetings solo, especially if they're new to this program. Not that we're not confident that you won't do a great job, but we really want to make this as rewarding and easy a day for you as possible. Okay, we have both in-person meetings and virtual meetings. Virtual meetings I touched upon. You can do them from anywhere. The app is very friendly in terms of facilitating, making that happen. You can use your smartphone, whatever works. As I mentioned, don't worry about the leave-behinds for the virtual meetings. Everybody was sent the materials. If you want to reference them, you can do so. But that included state-specific information. The number of investment advisors in that state, the aggregate AUM, little description of the industry, and it included our policy priorities, which I think most of you have seen. It's not in your folders, however, it is on the app. It's a nice 2-page, maybe 2.25-page piece that we are always refreshing. And again, the leave-behinds do not include the talking points, but you have those in your folder. The leave-behinds also include what we call the snapshot. For you old-timers, that used to be the Revolution report on the industry. We now call it the snapshot. It's gotten much snazzier. We have not the entire snapshot, but a little 8-sided brochure with great graphics and great information about the investment advisory profession. So in the in-person meetings, most of them, well, it's certainly possible that you will meet the lawmaker, who may come by just to shake hands, say hello, and then disappear. But most of the meetings are going to be with staffers. And the sophistication and knowledge of those staffers is going to vary widely. Some of them may really be pretty savvy about financial services. Certainly if their boss serves on the House Financial Services Committee or the Senate Banking Committee, they might be pretty good on this stuff. But a lot of them are going to be with legislative aides, legislative correspondents, policy advisors who cover a broad range of areas. And they may be a little bit wet behind the ears, too. So please, don't assume too much. When I said initially, explain who you are, what you do, how you're compensated, what type of clients you are. That's really going to be important because that is, we need to educate people about the investment advisory profession. Folks know about banks, they know about brokers, they know about insurance. Those outfits have, they're in every congressional district, they have enormous lobbies. We do our job so well that we're just not, and we're fiduciaries, we're not out there boasting, we're not out there selling product all the time and with enormous ad campaigns. We need to educate folks who investment advisors are. Once we do that, then we can talk about the issues and expect that there'll be some appreciation, understanding, if not concern, shared concern about it. Okay, one other thing. For those of you who have big gaps in your schedule and you're feeling bold and courageous, we did send to you on Monday afternoon around 5:14 p.m. an email about this program that included a master schedule. Now, I can tell you the master schedule has changed some. But if there are big holes in your schedules and you feel like spending some more time with the nation's lawmakers and their staffs, take a look at the master schedule to see if there's an additional meeting you want to go to and show up. Now, I can't tell you that you'll necessarily get in. We had to provide lists of who would be at each meeting. Nonetheless, I think there's a good chance, especially on the House side, that you may be able to go to an additional meeting or two, but I'm not guaranteeing it. But you'd be more than welcome to do so. Okay. At least one of the meetings is in the O'Neill House office building. Well, I thought there were only 3 House office buildings, Rayburn, Cannon, and Longworth. O'Neill House office building, named after Tip O'Neill, is a couple, 3 blocks away from all the other House office buildings. It's sort of a pain to get to. I know of at least one meeting there at 12:30. If you are part of that meeting, and that's with the staff of Congressman Patrick McHenry, who I mentioned yesterday is likely to become chair of the House Financial Services Committee, either be prepared for a longer walk or even consider taking a cab, Uber, Lyft to get there. It's at 200 C Street Southwest. It's not a bad walk, but you have to cross some busy roads, and it's not right next to all the other House office buildings. Okay, the talking points. I'm not proposing to go through 8 talking points, and we spoke a whole bunch about these issues yesterday. But as I mentioned, retirement savings legislation, yeah, really important to talk about it. We want to see that bill passed by Congress. And it's more likely than not to be taken up during the lame duck session after the midterm elections. It could be taken up sooner, not expecting it, but let's talk about that. That's important. And talk about the importance of and the work you do to enhance the retirement savings of your clients. The other bill I mentioned, the National Defense Authorization Act. Yes, you don't have to be an expert on national defense policy, but we do want to talk about that annoying AML provision in there. Certainly, we appreciate the importance of anti-money laundering. But as you know better than I, by the time a client comes to your doorstep, the custodian has done some due diligence on AML, the bank has. You're not at the end of the line, but there are a lot of other financial services providers who that client has seen who already have AML regulation, and it's been performed. So, our position is that investment advisors who pose very, very low risk when it comes to money laundering, it doesn't make sense for this type of regulation to be imposed upon them. It would be duplicative. It would be costly. It's just unwarranted. But the other thing to bear in mind is Treasury's FinCEN, and I'm not even going to try to tell you what that stands for, but it's on their rulemaking agenda. And frankly, given FinCEN's experience with money laundering, we would far prefer that FinCEN, through its rulemaking authority, determine who money laundering should be applicable to. And again, AML for advisors is on their rulemaking agenda, but determine which advisors it should be applicable to and what the contours should be. So again, we certainly don't want to leave an impression that we don't think AML is important. Lord knows it is, and as I mentioned yesterday, the current focus on it is because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the desire and the importance of identifying where oligarchs are hiding away their money in the United States. But we'd far prefer to let the regulators deal with this area in accordance with the Administrative Procedures Act. We'll be commenting and trying to influence that rule on your behalf. But there's no need for Congress to step in our mind. There are lots of other talking points. DEI, the SEC's agenda, loads of concern about the cumulative impact of this torrent of regulation on advisors, large and small. But there also is an angle for small advisors, the vast majority. Okay, 4 minutes to the 9 o'clock bus. If people leave now who are on the 9 o'clock bus, I will not be personally offended. In fact, I would encourage you, if your folder says 9 o'clock, head out. I'll leave you with one other thing. If there are other issues you want to talk about that are important to you personally or to your firm, please feel free to raise them. If you want to talk about the economic outlook, Fed policy, whatever, this is your day. I appreciate your being here. No restriction whatsoever on your raising other issues. Perhaps after you raise some of the issues I've identified that are of great importance. Please feel free to take pictures with your smartphones. Send them to us. Who knows how we'll use them? You will not get royalties, however. But we are planning to do publicity about Advisor Advocacy Day, and we've been delighted to feature you in some of your meetings. In the app, there is a place for you to write comments, which I'll be reviewing, IA staff will be reviewing. There is a template thank you note that will be sent. You can modify it however you see fit. That would go to the folks that you met with. If you want to send thank you notes in a separate fashion, if you want to send notes to me or other IA staff about your meetings in a separate fashion, fine. But there is a feature on the app that will make that easy. Please feel free to use it. And I think that's about it. So let me stop here and see if there are any questions from you all about the day. Didn't I mention the Capitol? Yes, I mentioned the Capitol Hill Club, thank you. The walk from here is probably a mile, roughly. We're at the 900 block. Capitol is right at the intersection of the quadrant, so it's 9 blocks over and probably 3 or 4 blocks south. So it's probably roughly a mile. It's a nice day. If you're a walker, DC is a pretty good walking town. But again, we will have that shuttle bus for you. Yeah, you will not need to present ID, but you will be going through magnometers, or however we pronounce that, with a belt. I don't believe you need to take off shoes, but they'll ask you to, put your purse or your jacket on it, and briefcase and the like. Yeah. Okay. Yes, the meeting in the O'Neill House office building that I mentioned earlier does require IDs, I think in part because we're not supposed to know about it, but Homeland Security has some offices in there, so that they're very extra security conscious. But yes, look at the app. There's just a wealth of information there. Thank you. Thank you for pointing out that. Okay, well, those of you who don't have meetings till later in the day, feel free to do whatever you would like. See the sights, go back to your room and get some work done, take a nap, go to the National Portrait Gallery. The buses, as I believe, are right in front, right at the main entrance to the hotel, so 4 levels up. Karen, Lisa Gillette. Lisa, the bus pickup point from the hotel is where? Okay, so L Street, which is right behind the hotel. We are, I apologize for not knowing that detail. The front of the hotel is on Mass Ave. L Street is right behind us. So that's where the buses will be picking up. Good, and we have a staffer up there to help direct you on. Thank you, Lisa and Karen. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Have a great day. I look forward to seeing you at the reception at the end of the day and a wonderful dinner with Amy Walter tonight.